Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw. Welcome to episode number 2 of the 10-Minute Commander Guide series, where we quickly describe one or two possibilities on how to build around the commander. And today's commander is Atraxa Praetors Voice. For the past 2 years, EDH Rec has ranked her as the number 1 commander used in decks as of May 12, 2022. That says a lot about the strength of this legendary Praetor. Atraxa Praetors Voice is loaded with value. She's a 4/4 with Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, and Lifelink, which is a great bargain for a 4 CMC legendary creature. Flying lets her easily swing in for damage. Lifelink gains you a significant chunk of life, and Vigilance plus Death Touch lets her still be ready to block and kill anything that dares to swing at you. But her true power lies in her Proliferate trigger ability at the end step. That's the real meat of the card that gets people, including myself, very excited to build around her. And the most popular and unique way to build around this commander in this format, in the commander format, is using a large cast of Planeswalkers, and this theme is called Superfriends. Moving on to the game plan for Atraxa. You will want to use her Proliferate ability and make as many counters as possible in order to activate any loyalty abilities of Planeswalkers. Generally, the last loyalty ability costs the most to activate, and that is called its ultimate. Moving on to Planeswalkers. I'll be sharing a few powerful and popular Planeswalkers in Super Friends decks. As of today, there are 258 legal Planeswalkers available, but mainly I'll be explaining the advantages of playing with Planeswalkers through this section. Stay tuned later in the video to learn about high synergy cards that allow you to cast Planeswalker's ultimate ability as soon as you cast them, or loyalty abilities 2 times per turn, or even infinite loyalty abilities in the combo sections of this video. Now let's chat about the advantages of Planeswalkers. After casting a Planeswalker, you can activate one of his loyalty abilities. Loyalty abilities are difficult to interact for opponents. You will have priority after activating a loyalty ability. For your opponents, in order to interact, they will need some type of counterspell that says targets activated abilities. Right now, there are only 11 cards that counter activated abilities, and think your opponents need to have it in their hand. Notice the last loyalty ability on a Planeswalker, which is called its ultimate. Lots of Planeswalkers give you an emblem or have a game-altering effect. The word emblem is a permanent effect and can't be destroyed. A few more characteristics of emblems are they exist in the command zone, don't count as permanents, cards, or spells. It is colorless, and they can stack. So that means you can have multiple emblems with the same effect. This demonstrates how powerful an emblem is. And guess what? I have a fun fact for you. There's only one card that can remove an emblem. Do you know what it is? The Planeswalker Karn Liberated, using his ultimate ability of restarting the game. Returning to the Planeswalker sections, there are Planeswalkers with static abilities like Teferi Master of Time and Casamina Enigma Sage. Best place to start your search for your selection of Planeswalkers is from the set The War of the Spark, which contains 36 Planeswalkers. Personally, Casamina Enigma Sage is one of my favorite Planeswalkers, allowing you to use her abilities on other Planeswalkers and add her amount of loyalty abilities to your other controlling Planeswalkers. You can build your loyalty counters faster this way or scribe 1 for each Planeswalker. These are game-winning moves, I must say. Now let's create our first infinite combo, and let's go with infinite turns. We need Atraxa, Myojin of Towering Might, and Sage of Hours. The result will be infinite turns. All it requires is all the permanents on the battlefield. Myojin has at least 1 indestructible counter on it. First step is, at the beginning of your end step, Atraxa triggers, putting an indestructible counter on Myojin. Activate Myojin by removing an indestructible counter from it, putting 5 +1/+1 counters on Sage of Hours, and the remaining 3 +1/+1 counters on any creature you control. Activate Sage of Hours by removing all +1/+1 counters from it, causing you to take an extra turn after this one. Rinse and repeat. Alright, our next infinite combo is infinite mana and infinite activations. Who you will need is Teferi, Temporal Archmage, the Chain Veil, and Karth the Lion. The prerequisites for this combo is all 3 permanents on the battlefield at the same time. And you will need at least 3 permanents that can produce at least 5 mana. That leaves you with 4 available after tapping. So what you do is tap 4 to activate Chain Veil to give you 2 activations per turn. Use Teferi's second ability, allowing you to untap, leaving you with 4 mana after you untap permanents that produce mana. Rinse and repeat. Chain Veil, Teferi, Chain Veil, Teferi, Chain Veil, Teferi. Alright, our next category is high synergy cards, and we're going to start off with an instant, Broker's Confluence. 2 colorless, 1 green, 1 white, 1 blue. It's an instant that reads, choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. First one, Proliferate. Second, target creature phases out. 3, counter target activated or triggered ability. Remember when I told you that it's difficult for opponents to interact with Planeswalkers, and the only way to counter it is by a instant saying activated ability? Here you go, Broker's Confluence. Next up, it is Viral Drake, a 3 colorless, 1 blue Drake, 1/4 flying creature with infect. It is really good because the 3 colors, 1 blue ability to proliferate, and it doesn't tap to proliferate, so you can do it more than once. Unlike the other artifacts that give you the ability to proliferate, you have to tap it. Viral Drake is game winning because they have, 2 or 3 remaining poison counters to death. You can tap 12 mana and end the game. Next up is Unbounded Potential. 1 colorless, 1 white is an instant that puts a +1/+1 counter on each up to 2 target creatures or proliferates. Or you can entwine it by paying 4. Guess what? Proliferate again at instant speed. You can't beat it. Can't beat it. Catch your opponents off guard. We're going to move on to the next set of cards. And those are more high synergy cards. And we're going to go with Oath of Teferi. Oath of Teferi is an enchantment for 3 colors, 1 white, 1 blue. It says when Oath of Teferi enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent you control. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of your next step. You may activate the loyalty abilities of Planeswalkers you control twice each turn rather than once. Remember when I mentioned earlier you can activate it twice? Here you go. Also, Chain of Veil is another ability, another artifact that gives you the ability to activate it twice. Next up is my favorite legendary Praetor. It's Vorinclex Monstrous Raider for 6 mana, 4 colors, 2 green, trample haste, and if you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, put that many of each of those counters on that permanent or player instead. If an opponent will put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, they put half that many of each of those counters on that permanent instead. The important thing about this card is when you play a Planeswalker that is a permanent, then you add the loyalty counters to it. So if you have Vorinclex out there before your Planeswalker enters with double the amount of loyalty counters. That's important. Do not forget that. Next up is Ignite the Beacon. It is literally a tutor for Planeswalkers for 5 mana at instant speed.
Thank you for watching episode 2
Tutor
of
game-winning
the 10-minute
Planeswalkers
Commander Guide.
on
And
your opponent's
today's
turn.
episode was about
They will not see
Atraxa
it coming
Praetors
until
Voice,
it's too late.
who is the number 1 commander for the past 2 years. She's super popular because of her proliferate ability and all those awesome keywords. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep in touch. If you see anything below that you'd like to add and comment below. Hey guys, thank you. Peace.